TJ, the Wheel Joe, coming at you live with a special episode of Power Hour. I know it's not Power Hour from 2 to 3, but anytime we're live together, Bob, it's a Power Hour as far as I'm concerned. Bob Hanson, my man, how are you? It's been too long.
There you go.
Are you there, Bob?
Yeah.
Do we have
Can you hear me?
Yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
So talk to us, Bob. What's going on in your world? I know that you are in a lot of the same stocks that I'm in. You know, you got SoFi, you got Celsius, to name a few. I know that you were very enamored with Enphase a while back, so I'd like to get into that one as well. And then I know that you had some valuation issues with Palantir back in the day as well. So I'm curious what those are like now, right? Because this thing's gone like parabolic even more. So let's just get into it. I say we start with our favorite stock, which is SoFi. So where are you at with SoFi? What is your situation with the stock? How have you been navigating it now that SoFi's it's been running, right? It's had a real nice year. And then I feel like, it's about 16, 17 bucks right now. And I feel like $25 is on the horizon. Like I could legitimately see that within the next 6 months. So what is your situation? What is your position with SoFi? And how are you navigating cover calls that I assume might be underwater?
Yeah. To basically explain it, I have a little different perspective on writing cover calls. Now, when these were written, keep in mind, I don't use delta per se, but what I do use is margins at the time of acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So my simple philosophy is I look for 10% of capital appreciation from that unit and a minimum of 20% annualized premium when I make an acquisition. So that being said, you know I've been into SoFi for multiple years now. So I've acquired SoFi at so many different price points.
Take it away. I got to go deal with that real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure. So having acquired SoFi at various price points and having set those covered calls to my margins that I require, basically I put myself in a position where there's always two scenarios. Scenario number one is I keep the shares and I, keep the premiums from those contracts that I write. Scenario number two, because of those tight margins, there's a possibility that I may not be able to control those shares in the future. It might just not make financial sense to roll them. And understand that I am completely good with that. I have no problems with that because I never really understood the concept of being disappointed with making a profit. And if you understand that my margins, 10% and then 20%, making 30%, I'll take that all day long, every day. So I don't fret about losing shares. And there's a few reasons for that, right? I put a lot of time and effort into SoFi, with my due diligence, but also understand that I never view this business, running this type of options business, as there's only 5 potential underlyings that I can use for this business. So that being said, if it is inevitable that I do lose SoFi, I don't fret about it, right? There's other fish in the sea. And when I was with TJ before, I explained to him the way I look at it. It's like going fishing, right? You're fishing in a lake and you're currently this lake might be, 80 acres. Well, with the amount of underlyings that I'm currently using, I'm really only fishing a half an acre of this lake, right? There's plenty of other fish out there. It's not like if I lose SoFi, there's nothing else that I can find. So that's where I differ with a lot of people. I will roll when it makes financial sense to roll. but I will never roll just for the sake of rolling, knowing that if those shares get called away from me, so what? You know what I mean? My margins are there. I made my money. I move on.
Bob,
Hey, glad you're back. I got tired of talking to myself.
I had to get the guy set up. I bought this leg press machine that's part of this PowerTech. PowerTech's this brand that I've been buying a bunch of exercise equipment for. They have like all of these attachments that it's all tubular, so it all fits in there. So I wanted to get this leg press machine because I have the leg curls extensions. I had this pendulum squat, but I wanted it, and then I've got the Smith machine, so that I wanted just another one because my wife wants to like working for the booty, right? So with this leg press machine, depending on how you turn your body, you can kind of like really target the glutes and the hamstrings as well as the thighs, and you can also just do like seated calf raises and stuff. So, dude, the little gym is coming together. I love working out. The problem is I've been eating like shit. So I started cleaning up my diet like a week and a half ago, and now it's just like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, like shedded real quick. So now if I could just stay on point with my diet, I feel like I will drop about 1.5 pounds a week. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 6 months from now, that could be a lot.
Yeah.
And
good luck.
But I think the hardest part for me was getting consistent with the workouts.
Right.
Because I'm like, dude, well, without that, none of it's going to happen. And then, the diet, that's all great. You'll look skinny. Cool. But I want to be fit. And there's a huge difference between being fat and being fit and then being skinny. Like my wife's skinny. You know what I mean? And I'm like, cool, baby. Well, let's go in the gym and let's get fit. And then it's just, so that's what we're working towards now. Because I don't want to be skinny. I want to be fit. And there's a huge difference. You have to be real clear. It's like selling cashier puts and cover calls. I know how my hamburger stand operates. So for my personal hamburger stand, right, my fitness, is I made a decision sometime late last year that I want to get fit. I want to be skinny. If losing weight's a byproduct of getting healthy, that's great. I'll take that. But I'm saying I want to be fit. I want to be able to jog a couple of miles, go do the 5K. I want to not die when I do the freaking rowing machine in the gym or the treadmill on an incline, whatever. Like, I want to be able to do those kinds of things. I want to be able to go, there's these stairs in Colorado. And it says you have to be at a certain level of fitness to do these stairs in Colorado. So we're going to go do that later this year. And I want to look at that stairs and be like, oh, they can't wait to get to the top. Like we're good versus I wonder if I'm going to pass out all along the way. So anyway, so what were you saying, Bob? What were you saying? You're basically saying I got these shirts for sale and however it goes, because I decided on the front end, this is how much I wanted to make.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like everything, to me, like I explained to you when we were talking earlier, when I sell cover calls, to me, it's always about either side of the scenario has to be a favorable outcome for me.
Right.
Whether it's I keep the shares and collect more premium, renew the contracts, or if I lose the shares, I know what my margins are. I know that I'm going to make 30% profit on those shares. So if I get into a scenario like I am now with these $10 cover calls with SoFi, if I lose them, I don't fret over it, right? Like we talked about before, which I explained to your audience. Look, we're on an 80-acre lake if we think of the stock market like that, and I'm only fishing a half an acre, right? It's not like SoFi is the only underlying that I can continue this business with. If that was the case, then I'd have a whole nother issue, but it's simply not the case. So I just do not fret over making money, because that's what it is. If I'm fretting about losing those covered calls, then I'm worrying about making a profit. And that I've never been able to rationalize that type of thinking.
I think what it is, Bob, is you're old enough to know that when stocks go up and they get away from you, it's not like they can't come back down at some point. And you can get right back in.
100%, brother.
And you're also like, oh, it's not like I was going to really sell the top anyway. So this opportunity cost that people speak of, you know that it's not really that real, because how many people have rang the cash register at the top? How many people have really bought at the bottom intentional?
Great point.
It's happened accidentally for me, you know what I mean? A handful of times on the bottom, but not intentionally.
Right.
Like I can honestly tell you, hand to God, I've never intentionally bought a stock at the bottom. I'm like, dude, I know for a fact this thing is going up, because you'd go all in at that point, right? Like,
yeah.
If you knew. So I know I'm not that good. So I'm just like, I'm going to try to manufacture this win. I'm going to sell some puts and calls. That's my magical eraser, right? That's my margin of safety.
Yeah.
And
I think part of my philosophy,
go ahead,
TJ, is not to be so dependent, your success not being so dependent on the trajectory of your underlying, right? Whether it's hanging on to it longer, continuing to collect premiums, or the possibility, if you can't roll the cash out, either way is good, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just, there's no point in me moving on. Fretting about something that I cannot control. And I'm not a guru. I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know where SoFi is going to be, 12 months from now. And for me to say, that I absolutely know, that's being a little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Arrogant. Cocky.
Arrogant. Yes. Mm-hmm. Because I have been at this long enough that I know the stock market can humble you very, very quickly.
Great. I'm gonna put my eggs over there. I'm trying to hit my calories today. I didn't hit them yesterday, dude, and I realized that when I don't eat enough, it's tough, and then I'll suffer at the gym. I just don't have enough fuel. I don't have enough body.
And something else about that, TJ, which I really haven't heard you discuss a whole lot. Just because some of your cover calls are in the money, to a certain point, you can still make money renewing or rolling those in the money covered calls, right? To a certain point, right?
You can, as long as you understand the game within the game. Like I have some Tesla cover calls at 340 for January of 2027. Mm-hmm. So on the surface, it sounds really bad, right? But if I can just get out of my own head, and Tesla could be trading at like $600 by then, or $700 by then, or $1,000 by then, for all I know. But if I just have this mindset that I'm going to be able to roll out for another year if I want to, and I can go from like a 340 to like a 360, 370, 380, and probably do so for a net credit, I'm winning. Because I was okay when I initially sold these contracts to sell Tesla at 340, and now I'm going to try to add. The goal is to add $50 the following year. So I want to go or $60. I want to go to 400. And even if it cost me like $10,000, but I qualify for $60 of capital appreciation on 4,000 shares, I'm winning. And I can play that game year over year over year. And oh, by the way, I'll realize a loss on paper that's going to help me on taxes too. So I think you just got to really have to understand how to. It's like you use this construction analogy, right, where you have your units and all of this stuff. So you're like the developer, and there's so many nuances that go with the development of this subdivision, if you will.
Absolutely.
And I think that people get stuck on just, well, how much did you pay for the sheetrock?
Right.
Like how much did you pay for the shingles on the roof? I'm like, dude, you got to look at the totality of this project. And sometimes you got to give a little to get more. Sometimes givers gain. And sometimes, you might lose over here. Like that one didn't work out. But if you do it, if you're building 20 houses, and 2 of them don't go exactly according to the plan, but the other 18 did. How are you doing overall?
Right. Yep.
And I think that that's where me having business sense and business experience outside of the stock market helps me to keep a very level head. And a lot of people don't understand that about me because they don't really fully know my background. Like, dude, I was a professional fireman with my home security business. What does that mean? I was putting out fires all day long, dude. So I learned how to scramble. So now when I have a covered call underwater or a cash secured put underwater, this is just a mathematical equation. I don't need to make sure that the text shows up, and I don't want to hear about the 130-degree attic. We need to get this done because the customer's pissed off and all these. Dude, that was tough. That was tough. You're telling me here I got to push a few buttons and fix a problem? That's why I'm so cool, calm, and collected under pressure. And the stock market, this shit's a lot easier than what I was doing before in a previous life. This is a lot easier than the freaking wells running, and we're going to have to trip out of the hole wet, climb your ass up 90 feet, and I know it sucks. We're going to send you some Bayrite and stuff for your gloves because things are going to get real slick, but we need to come out of this hole. We need to go pump some heavier freaking mud because we don't want to blow up the location and kill everybody. That was a different kind of pressure that I used to feel in a previous life. Now you're telling me that I got to wait 6 months or a year and sit on my hands so I could deal with this cover call underwater on Tesla? Bro, give me a fucking break.
Right.
I mean, so again, there's 2 D's in this scenario. There's drama and there's dollars. There's no dollars in the drama. And my dollars don't have room for the drama. You know what I mean? Like, we got to pick a side. Like in business, I used to say, there's 3 P's. There's politics and there's production. And only one of those is going to get you to the profit, which is the P that we want. Do you want to go sit over here with your corporate politics bullshit? Or do you want to focus on production? Because production equals profits. And employers, which I was one of those employers, I was constantly looking for people that were more productive and less political. And it permeated into my personal life. And that's why I don't like politics very much. Like Donald Trump's in the screen in the background and stuff. And, every once in a while, I listen to what he has to say, but I don't play the political card too much because I know that there's no production over there and there's no profit for me from a business perspective. Joe's talking about Susie Q and who boned who and this and that and the other. I'm like, well, you know what y'all ain't doing? Y'all ain't calling Mr. Jones and asking them to need a home security system because that's what I'm paying you for. I'm not paying y'all to know who's sleeping with who in this office. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's why this stuff is so easy for me.
Yeah.
Mentally, because it's just a game of math, bro. Like I don't have to know what's going on at Tesla. I don't have to know what's going on at SoFi. I'm just figuring out the contracts and what do we have to do to finagle our way and manufacture a win. That's it.
Yeah.
You're navigating. It's it. Just keep it simple.
Yep.
So anyway, let's talk about some of these positions that we're in, and just offer me your tutelage, if you will, Bob. So let's talk about SoFi. I've grown a little bit. I've grown a little bit from the standpoint that I learned from the error of my ways, because it's like you're a jockey and this is the horse, and you got to learn how to jockey that horse, right? You got to learn how to ride that horse. You got to know how it runs, etc. And I noticed that when SoFi moves, boy, she moves. So we've accumulated a huge position here. We're up a substantial amount of money. But now you're going to see that my covered calls expire tomorrow, and they're at 22, 25, and 20. I expect that they'll all expire out of the money. I don't see SoFi having a $3.50 jump by tomorrow. Do you, Bob?
No.
And if it happens, I'll deal with it. You follow me? But I ain't giving any of this money back. I can literally close all of these out for $1 a contract. So let's have that conversation. Bob, why do you think that I have chosen not to close these out and leave that risk on the table?
Why would you give back some premium?
Because I'm winning, right?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And then I don't have anything else to do with those shares, because what am I going to do? Put them for sale at like 18 and bring on a whole level of stress?
Right.
not going to do that. And then on top of that, it's a volume thing. It's a contract thing. It's $200. It's $500. It's $1,000. It's like asking me to literally flush $1,700 down the toilet. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and continually doing that, it adds up.
Expensive, bro. At these levels, I learned that letting some things expire worthless when they've gone in your favor, bro, that really pads the bottom line over long stretches of time.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I was a huge proponent of closing out at 70, 80, 90%. But then I was just like, dude, you know what? When you have a winning contract and it's so hard to win in this game, and you don't have anything else to do, especially on the covered call side of things, right? Because you already own those shares.
Right.
It's a little bit different on a cash secured put because I can put that money somewhere else and go chase more premium per day.
Exactly.
So that's a tweak that I've made over the last 6 to 12 months. Is I have covered calls expiring worthless very, very frequently now. Whereas before that wasn't my game. And
right.
I also have more squatters now. Because if you look at the amount of shares, you look at the amount of contracts. So here I'm exceeding the amount of shares I own, right? Like there's more covered calls than shares. You follow me?
Right. Yep.
But it's because I have long calls. So I've got 200 long calls at 7, 200 long calls at 5, another 500 long calls at 10, and another 500 long calls at 15. So there's another 1,400 long calls. So you couple that with 150,000 shares, essentially I could be selling 2,900 covered calls, but I've only chosen to sell 1,400. So now the question is, why? Because I think that SoFi can get to 20 pretty quickly, and that's when I think that I'll decide to go ahead and put the rest of the virtual shares at risk, if you will. I don't own those shares yet. I just own the contracts to buy those shares. But the 150,000 shares, those are going to be for sale because I need to collect rent on those. But since the leaps are only like 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, it's a little easier to justify having squatters over there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because
you're not dollar for dollar, right, on the deltas.
That's one part of your strategy that has noticeably changed since from the time that I started watching you.
Yeah.
There was times I never remember you buying calls. Ever.
Yeah. I've been doing those longer than I've been selling cash secured puts and covered calls. I was just doing them offline. Like I started buying leaps. I think the first time I bought leaps was probably like 2011 or 2012. Because it was the first strategy that made sense to me. I was like, well, I think this thing's going to go up. Why don't I just buy a contract that says it's going to go up? And then I would just flip contracts. I would never take ownership of those shares.
Right.
But I didn't even know that it could roll. And I was winning like 8 out of 10 of these. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know enough, but it was just something that just made sense to me. Buddy in the oil field used to do it.
Yeah.
And
I don't buy calls or anything, but my kind of play towards what you're kind of doing is I have 2 separate things. I have a business for selling options, right, and then I have an investment where I just buy and hold shares. They're completely separated, not even in the same brokerages, and I treat them completely different. Somehow, I don't know what it is, but when I see people talk about options, I don't know whatever made this thought that you either have to sell options or be a buy and hold investor, that you cannot be both.
Yeah.
There's this mentality out there that I just never understood. And you can do both. In fact, many people do both. Yeah. I mean, there are people that sell options on 20% of their shares or 30%. It's all up to the individual, right? You can do both. It's not an either or an or type decision.
Agreed, man. And I think that, I always use this hamburger stand analogy, but you got to keep tweaking it, man. You got to keep tweaking it. And my whole thing is I'm trying to create a hamburger stand that is so simple a 16, 17, 18-year-old can grasp the general concepts.
Yep.
Because I want to be the McDonald's of wheeling. What does that mean? Dude, McDonald's can be run by like a 16, 17, 18-year-old. It's very cookie cutter. So people are going to see that I'm playing this big game called lowering the adjusted cost basis to zero. And this is the way that I go about it. Sometimes go real heavy on some tickers because I'm trying to lower that adjusted cost base aggressively when the opportunity presents itself. And I keep moving. And all the while, once I stack up some wins, I go hide money in the Teslas and Amazons of the world, right? Like that's a roundabout way of what I got going on with the portfolio. I'm just trying to stack wins because I don't just have an unlimited supply of cash that I can keep funneling into the account. So I'm trying to go find wins where I can find them so I can stack my shares because eventually I can retire off of those shares.
Sure.
You're like, I just hit 8,000 shares on Amazon today.
Nice.
And I'm like, dude, what's it going to look like when it's 28,000? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and now I got, every time a package shows up now, it's going to hurt me so much, like psychologically, because Kristen keeps Amazon in business, bro. Like, I don't know why she loves it.
Not just Kristen, believe me.
No, bro, it's just so convenient. You know, it's like having Walmart at your fingertips or whatever, right?
Amazon and Walmart Plus, man. I'm not a big shopping person, and I don't like to go shopping. I think it's an utter waste of time. So all our groceries, Walmart Plus. Anything else that I probably need, I'm probably going to get it from Amazon. Occasionally, my wife likes to shop, so
yeah,
you know that's her thing. But no, thank you.
I hear you. Another wrinkle that I've added to my game is when I have shares that are unencumbered and I want to sell covered calls, I'll put a limit order, Bob, on the covered call. And if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, then it wasn't meant to sell covered calls on that day. So I did that on Riot today. I want to sell some covered calls on Riot. Riot was pumping a little bit today. So I put it out there and I'm like, you give me $24 a contract, I'll put 25,000 shares for sale for Valentine's Day. You know, a little 2-week trade, bring in like 5,000, whatever it was in cash, but it hasn't happened yet. You know, it hasn't happened yet. And I'm like, the only way it's going to feel is Riot's going to have to pump back up over 12 bucks. So it's right here. And you'll see that the bid and the ask is 16 and 19. When I did it, the bid was 20, the ask was 22. So it came down. So I'm like, I think over the course of the day, if not, I'll put it on tomorrow or whenever, but I'm willing to agree to sell these shares, but I got to get 24 bucks a contract. So, you know, Mr. Premium would call these types of, it was a cash secured put, kind of like stink bids, but they have different rules for their stink bids. I call it like, if you want to dance with me, this is the price bid. You follow me? Like this is the price of admission. If you want to come grab these shares, Mr. Options buyer, this is what it's going to cost you. Because I'm not going to put my shares for sale otherwise. And then I don't look. And then sometimes I'll be out in the gym or whatever, here in the garage gym, and I'll get the notification that the damn covered call filled. And I felt like I found that $20 bill in my pocket.
Right.
And I'm like, so it's just, you know, sometimes they fill, sometimes they don't. I'll get the message at the end of the day saying that it was automatically canceled or whatever the case may be. And it ends up being a blessing from the standpoint of what if it takes 3 days for me to get that 24 bucks, but it's a shorter trade. Technically my ROI was higher because the trade was shorter and I still got the money that I was looking for. Whereas before I would be in such a hurry to get these filled. And then there's another spike up and then boom, I'm underwater 60-70% right away on that covered call.
Right.
So I'm like, dude, if I ain't getting the money that I'm looking for, I'd rather just not sell the covered calls because it's not like I'm not going to be holding Riot. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to ride this damn thing up anyway. So that's another wrinkle that I've added.
That's the beauty of a lot of what we do is we get to dictate the terms of everything.
Facts.
Whatever your strategy is, you're in control. You get to dictate the terms of what you want to do. And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is the Tesla one that I was talking about. So Tesla has just been an absolute godsend for me from the standpoint that now I have this built-in roll here. This is a tax harvest, dude. Whenever I roll these, I'm going to be able to book like a $250,000 loss on paper, and that's really going to help with the taxes. And then I'm just like, dude, if I can go from 340 to 400 when it's time to roll from 2027 to 2028, and it doesn't cost me any money, and I qualify for another $60 in capital appreciation, I will be ecstatic. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it just all of a sudden I start seeing the math and I'm like, no, I'm so underwater that I can only go from like 340 to 350 or 360. Then I got to start looking at, okay, what are the tax implications if I sell these shares right here, right now? And then what can I do with all that capital? Can I just go sell some puts on Tesla and start getting the money that I left on the table that way if I still want to invest in Tesla? Or what if there's another opportunity that I'm interested in? So I leave myself open to all the possibilities. Whereas maybe 2 years ago, Bob, I would have been absolutely 100% determined to do some revenge trading on Tesla because it owes me money.
Right.
And now I'm like, dude, Tesla doesn't owe you shit. You just played it a little bit wrong. So accept that. Be thankful that you still made money. It's better to learn the lesson while you're profitable than while you're not profitable, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. You made money, so you can't really complain about that. But then now what I started doing, I was like, well, what I could do is I could just start adding some more shares. So I added the most expensive shares ever. And that was, I bought 200 shares of Tesla at $386. And I was talking to the members in the WhatsApp group. This was more of a psychological trade, Bob, because I wanted to create a new hurdle where I could get comfortable paying that kind of money for Tesla, even though I think Tesla should be under $300 right now, maybe even under 250. Truth be told, the quarter sucked. It was a great call, but the quarter sucked. So the story was beautiful. The numbers sucked. Fair enough, because we're story guys, right? So if you just want to buy the story, my goodness, the robots are coming, FSD's coming, it's all fantastic, 500 a share. But the metrics suggest it should be more like 150 a share. You know what I mean? Because the numbers suck. So I live in that life still. Like I live in that little reality of where valuations matter to me. So have you ever done this where a stock's kind of like gotten away from you? You know that you're going to be dealing with covered calls for a while. But essentially what I said is I want to build another 4,000 share position with Tesla, and that's my first bullet with that right now, if that makes sense. Have you ever done that, or do you just keep managing and managing? Like another huge average up for me is what I did.
Yeah, I'm a little different that I just keep managing them. Like, what we were talking about before, TJ, if I know over a given year I can make 17% annualized premium just by simply rolling an in the money covered call at the same strike, not even raising the strike price,
right?
I'll take it.
Sure.
Right? Because I've been around long enough to know it's not easy getting 16 or 17% on your money each year, right? And if you can continually do that year after year, I mean, just the rule of 72 tells you you're going to do just fine. So, yeah, I actually think more about cash management than I do actually about stocks so much. I focus on making sure that my cash management is on point, right, and that I always am in a position to take advantage of things that I need to take advantage of. The things that my underlyings are calling on me to address, I want to always be in the position to address them. So yeah, it's a little different.
I hear you. I'm just putting your link in the chat there. If you guys could do me a favor, we have quite a bit of you guys here today. We've got 70 watching. We've got 713 folks on X that have clicked the link. So if y'all can do me a favor and go over to Bob's channel real quick and hit subscribe. He's sitting at 183. I'd like to get him over 200. I know Bob's mission is not to grow the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but it's my mission to point people in the directions to get good quality content. And a lot of that content is on the smaller channels, guys. It just is because it's not commercialized.
Yeah.
Bob's not like trying to appeal to a sponsor. Bob's not trying to get good on some sort of algorithm or whatever. He didn't give a shit. He's just trying to spread the good news, if you will.
Yeah. And the truth with my channel, I've got some personal friends that follow it.
Right.
That it's important to me that we talk about this stuff, and rather than having text conversations, it's a way for me to like kind of communicate with them. Just by being honest, being real, and showing them exactly what I'm doing, and not trying to sell them anything or make them believe. Like I tell people all the time, never do anything, or my goal is not to make you think like I think, because we're all unique individuals with different perspectives.
Right.
And I just, if I had this like little dream that the few people that actually watch my channel, my little dream would be that, wow, they took this one thing from me and incorporated into their thinking, and it's really helped them. If that happens, it's worth it.
It is, dude. I have that like the WhatsApp group for the members, and like today, a gentleman posted that he was really thankful for the channel and that his portfolio was at an all-time high.
Nice.
And I'm like, dude, like that's super cool, right? And he somehow thinks that I had something to do with it. And all I'm doing is documenting the journey. He carved out his niche based on what I've got going on, and he made it his own.
Yes.
So I didn't do anything. I just showed the Google Maps.
Right.
He picked the road that worked for him. I didn't push any buttons for him.
Right.
And I think that more and more people are going to realize that if I keep this thing going long enough, is that you don't have to do. There's one dude that's always ragging my trades on X, but he uses the methodology, and he makes a lot of money. And he's like, I don't agree with TJ on any of his trades. These are the trades that I use, but I use the same concepts that I learned from him.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, that dude figured it out.
TJ,
the hamburger stand, loves the way I run the hamburger stand. He just wanted to change the menu items.
Yeah.
And
TJ,
like,
yesterday you and I had what I thought was just a fabulous little conversation on the phone.
Yeah.
And basically we were talking about how, you have your channel subscribers that you help out via FaceTime. And at one point I had these young ladies that I were mentoring, first getting started. And some of the things that we talked about, I just thought was, so I just related to it so much. Like each one of us, our portfolios really are a reflection of us.
Yeah.
Right. It's a reflection of a lot of things we've been through in the past, and a lot of things maybe we haven't been through, in the past as well. So for me, anybody who ever does stock content, for anybody to try to say that what they do is right and what they invest in is right and what you're investing is wrong is so misguided.
Yeah.
Because
Great.
Their portfolio is completely unique to them. And it's what they're comfortable with. What the hell right would I have as an individual to say that what you're investing in, I would never do that. That's wrong, or criticize it. One, it's not my money. And two, you have to have conviction in it, not me. Right. And if you're invested in, I'm assuming you've probably invested more time research in that company than I have by far.
Yeah.
So why would I ever think that what you're doing is wrong or what you're investing in is wrong? So, yeah.
Yeah. So to that point, Bob, I want to plug this little community that I've created on X. And it is called, is that me or you? Is it you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. I just wasn't sure because I have that same ringtone on one of the phones. So I created this little community called Wheelers Premium Junkies on X. And it is a community where we're just screenshotting.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of giving a watch list, why don't you give a legitimate trade idea? So this is a trade this person just took, put it on here. Who's selling put credit spreads on NVIDIA? And he shows one that he just did. And then PNG got a bunch of shares recently uncovered to bring in some money after months of rolling out and up. Kick this headache down the road. I want to get to 1,000 HIM shares. So he's showing his little journey with that. And then they show the history and then closing Tesla position. So this person just closed Tesla for a cool $20,000 profit. My goodness, dude. My goodness. This person's sharing charts. This person's giving a summary of their little playbook right now, showing all the screenshots. Hey, these are my open trades right now. So we all get to chime in. So I wanted to essentially create a watch list on steroids, if you will, because this isn't just your ordinary watch list. These are actual trades that people have on.
Right.
And you're not allowed to talk shit or you're out of it. Nobody needs to be hearing that their wife is ugly. Nobody needs to be hearing that their girlfriend's ugly. This trade works for them. If you can't cheer them on, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like seriously, because that needs to stop. So I want to, so people are like, how are you going to make your mark and this and that? You need to have an options trade. Like it's always saying, then you have like some sort of options trade that's named after me because, you know, I've had some pretty decent success in the community. This is what I want to be known for. I want to be known for as the guy that I don't give a shit what you have to say about this stock. Show me the trade. Are you willing to show me the trade? And then we can decide if we want to take a trade similar to it.
Yeah.
Give me a trade idea. That's something I can really sink my teeth into. And then I show all the trades that I did just today alone. You know what I mean? Like I bought the shares of Tesla, bought the shares of Amazon. I got out of Nike. I logged a nice little profit on Nike. Bought, closed out some hood, closed out the meta spreads, etc. And that is what I've been doing on the channel. And then this other person is doing charting. And then this other person's like, hey, these are the trades that I got going on. And then I show that I made a profit with Nike, right? I lost 2,450 on the covered call, but I made 13,750 on the long calls. So it gives you the whole thing right there. And then, so that's the community that I want to build on X. And I want to be just as proud of that community as I am the YouTube channel.
Well, good luck with it.
Where else are you going to go find some actual trades, bro? So I'm trying to encourage transparency to a certain degree. I'm not saying, hey, show me your whole P&L, but dude, you know, everybody goes on X and everybody goes on wherever they're talking like about the latest and greatest news bulletin or whatever. I'm like, well, how do I make money with that?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I feel like there's just so much useless knowledge going on. Somebody have YouTube channels and they're really, really good at talking about stocks. Show me how you're making money with it. Because that's why I'm tuning in. And I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all are tuning in for the same shit too.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm trying to get more and more people. I just started it like 3 days ago. We already got like 1,200 members for the community. But I'd like to have like 20,000 members on there. And you can go in there and just filter a bunch of freaking screenshots and be like, dude, I've already gotten like 5 plays that just were not in my radar at all, Bob. Because guess what? It turns out not everybody likes SoFi and Riot only. You know what I'm saying? Like the stock market's a lot bigger than that. Can you imagine? You know what I mean? So it's really opened my eyes to other ideas.
Sure.
And so anyway, what do you think about the idea and the concept of the community? Pretty clever, pretty cool.
No, it's a cool concept, TJ. And I, you know, if that's something that, you know, you want to do, it's part of your DNA and something you want to do. That's fantastic. I wish you luck with it. Me personally,
I was real surprised that so many people were forthcoming with the screenshots.
But my skepticism tells me everything like that on social media is they're going to be forthcoming with their profitable trades, but not so forthcoming with their shares that their trades that did not work out. That's just the way people roll generally.
I post losers, so I'm hoping.
I know you do, yeah.
Well, exactly, it happened. I mean, people have seen me lose 6 figures a couple times on this channel.
Yeah,
it happens. They've also seen me make 7 figures.
Right. I'm not you, but I'm saying by and large, social media is about bragging.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate social media. In fact, it's a big step out for me to even do this YouTube channel. I don't have any other social media. I basically can't stand it. I think 95% of it is toxic. So, yeah, I've got weird opinions on social media, unfortunately.
No, I hear you, bro. I think that it is the cause of a lot of mental health issues these days.
Sure, 100%, especially with the younger kids.
Post a selfie, you're a young woman, you post a selfie, and you don't get enough likes, and now you don't feel validated.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fucking sad, right? Like, I mean, if you think about it. And I lost a daughter to suicide, so it's a real sensitive subject to me. But she was getting bullied a lot by her class and stuff. And it's just, she dealt with things that I didn't have to deal with when I was a kid. Fucking Facebook wasn't around back then. People had to bully you to your face. The risk with that is I could punch you, right? That's the risk. There's not a lot of risk being a keyboard bully. And so I just, dude, like social media, bro, it's just, oh my God. I think it's great from the standpoint that you can communicate with people that you lost touch with and all that. I think there's good in everything. But then there's also like, dude, so many people deal with so much shit that we just didn't have to deal with growing up, Bob. I feel like we grew up in a more simpler time.
Yeah, 100%, TJ, for sure.
Like we even knew what a boy was and a girl was. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no disagreements on something so simple, right? And now it's like I had to learn pronouns all over again at the age of like 47. And it was just crazy to me. But let's look at these right here. We got SoFi, Amazon, Riot, Tesla. I've got it set to equity. Then I've got Hood, CleanSpark, Marathon, Enphase, NVIDIA, Nubank. That's a new one, Bob. Remember I used to talk about Nubank a little bit?
What the hell? What the hell is that all about?
Dude, I'm telling you, I saw a picture of Dave Velez, and I was like, I can kind of see what my wife was seeing when she looked at it. I was on a Mint's channel a couple of weeks ago, and Chris Patel was on the phone. And he's like, bro, I'm long Nubank. And literally that morning, Kristen had asked me, when are we adding Nubank to the portfolio? Like, enough is enough. It's growing faster than SoFi. It has a bigger addressable market than SoFi. Like, what gives? And I'm like, well, you shouldn't have been so chummy with David. It would already been in the portfolio. So she was like, stop it. Not even my type. He's short. And I'm like, dude, I think he's taller than I am. What are you saying about me? You know what I'm saying? And he's a billionaire. So anyway, it was just funny. It's just funny. But I added it, and I'm already playing it all wrong. I got 10,000 shares, and I've got covered calls for April at $13. So they're already underwater. And since I'm not emotionally attached at all to it, if you'd have told me that I was going to take this trade on and make, like 20 grand, 22 grand after premiums and whatnot, I'd have been cool with it. And I just got to wait to get paid in April. So I'm going to literally wait until probably April and revisit and decide whether or not I want to keep rolling those covered calls. I know that I don't want to add to the position or anything, but he did cause me a lot of insecurity when I saw those messages between my wife and him, when my wife and I first got together, that it feels kind of nice, a recompense, if you will, that I'm going to make like 20 grand on this deal. So I'm like, I'm good with it now, a little better with it. Not good with it, a little better.
That's a shocker. That's a shocker to me.
How familiar are you with Nubank, though?
What's that?
How familiar are you with Nubank?
I haven't watched it so closely anymore because it stopped being part of the options portfolio. I have a buy and hold position on it. I'm somewhat familiar with it, but I don't follow it like on a quarter by quarter basis. I know when I was really looking into it, I saw all the things that you saw, the extreme growth. I thought the valuations were a little tough, but the rate at which they're growing and the new markets they were entering into, such as Mexico and so on and so forth. And these are financial markets that are really tremendously underserved. So I think Nubank has a special proposition for customers in that area that they haven't been getting. So big story wise, I think I like Nubank quite a bit.
I hear you. Well, I got another one for you that I think you'll like a little more.
I saw Enphase back in your portfolio again.
You want to talk about that one? What are your thoughts on Enphase? Are you bullish or not so much? Or at these levels?
Long term, extremely bullish. Under the current economic climate or the current political and economic climate, not so much. I think Enphase is going to take a little while for this to play out.
Great.
I think it's going to benefit those who have a little patience.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about patience in a week or in a month.
This is a 5-year deal.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah. So I've got 2,000 shares at 69.58. So I'm going to grade myself at least at a C+ on entry point fund. And I am strangling this stock right here, Bob. I've got the shares for sale at 75. So I'm bringing the cash register there. And I've got an agreement to buy 2,000 more shares at 60. And if those get hit, I'm going to buy an additional 2,000 shares at 50. And if those get hit, I'm going to buy 5,000 shares at 40. Like, that's the game plan. So I'm going to try to build a massive position, because I feel like at these levels, mathematically, I can manufacture the win. Their balance sheet is pristine for the size of company that they are. And it's just a matter of time, dude. I think it's just a matter of time before this thing sees triple digits again. And I want to take it on for a ride, because, Bob, this stock owes me. And I'm going to collect. And right now I'm collecting.
Careful, brother. That sounds like a revenge trade to me.
Right now I'm collecting about $10,000 a month with this little strangle right here. And if I don't ever get this capital appreciation, we can make amends if she'll give me $10,000 a month for the next 5 years. So I don't see a better risk reward for an entry point and the types of premiums that are available while you wait. Because, dude, there's opportunity cost, right? So I own shares that may not go up in value. But if you look at the amount of premiums that those shares are bringing in, is that really opportunity cost? Because, I mean, it did bring in $4,375 for a 3-week period on the premiums. And then we look at the actual shares, well, how much did we spend on the shares, right? So 3 weeks brought in $4,300, and these shares for about 140 grand. Bob, what kind of piece of real estate can you buy for 140 large and bring in $5,000 or $6,000 a month in premiums,
right?
And rent.
Yep.
Brother, I think it's the best piece of real estate in the entire world right now. From that, I'm just saying, it's all about perspective, right?
100%, man.
It is. It's, you have your construction business that is virtual shares, and when y'all don't know what I'm talking about, Bob, do you want to give them a breakdown of your units and everything else while I go grab another Celsius?
Easy. You already had one today, man. Easy.
No, this was the finishing yesterday. I can't drink all of these in one day. Sometimes they last me 2 or 3, brother. It's too
I got you.
My hair starts growing. So walk them through that, and I'm going to go grab another one real quick.
So yeah, I view selling options very much the way a home builder views constructing neighborhoods or homes within a subdivision. That's kind of like the mentality that I use, right? You have a certain cost to build these homes. For example, if you're paying $20 a share, of course, one contract, or I look at it as like a unit, right? Is 100 shares, one unit. So when I think about building units, which is same as contracts, I think about it like putting up new homes in a particular subdivision, with each underlying being its own subdivision. That's just the way that I mentally rationalize what I'm doing, outside of taking it outside of the financial type stock market type language, but that's the way I kind of look at it. And I put those homes up for sale for 10% above the cost for me to build those units, my average cost to build that unit. I look at that like is my construction material, your plywood, your concrete, all that stuff. That is what it cost me to build that unit. Then I put it up for sale at that 10% premium and also get paid, 20, 25% in the premium for a certain date. I'm agreeing to sell it at a certain date. I think TJ's kind of like had a great episode, not like maybe a year or so ago, where he went with through this kind of with Alex's father.
Yeah.
In the same type of like mentality of thinking of it this way. And it really helps me like just keep my mindset right at all times, right? It makes me understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And part of running a construction business is understanding that if you are going to have a construction business long term, you obviously have to sell some homes at some point, right? You can't keep building without ever selling any homes. Eventually, your capital runs out. Well, that gets into the cash management aspect of running this type of business, right? It keeps me on point, this thought process, to always make sure that I have cash to continually to operate, to build subdivisions, even new subdivisions, year after year after year. So just the whole thinking of the way I equate it to building a subdivision as a home builder, it helps me just mentally keep everything in focus.
Gotcha. I love it, dude. I love it. I could totally relate. I just think it is absolutely awesome. Now let's talk about why you're really here, Bob. Are you ready?
Sure.
Remember, I was super excited about this company when it was about $60.
Yeah. How things have changed.
And we thought it was a little bit pricey.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mailed me a case of these. Do you remember the flavor? Because that was my favorite, and I don't remember.
It was grape. Grape was your favorite at the time.
Okay, these is wild berry. This is my jam. I go through phases with these things. So I'm dating Celsius, right? Because I can't figure out which one of these flavors I'm going to marry. When I'm doing these Powerade Zeros, it's the purple one or the red one. You know what I'm saying? Like it's grape, or I'm not sure if the other one's strawberry.
Well, I got some great news for you right off the bat with that. Celsius just announced they're getting not out, but they're building their portfolio beyond the energy drink market. They just released
hydration
powder packets for the hydration market in like 4 or 5 different flavors. So now instead of buying that Powerade, you can grab some water, put your Celsius packet in there, no caffeine. So you're not going to have those effects from, as an energy drink would. And I think this is extremely bullish long-term for Celsius, because I think they have to have other verticals within their business, because they are so concentrated with the risk that as the energy market goes right now, so will Celsius go, even though they've been outperforming the other energy drinks by category. When you have a slump in the whole energy drink category, you're going to be affected. So if they can get some other verticals, I think it's an outstanding thing for Celsius to do.
Yeah, I saw your live last night, third one of the day, right? That's what you said.
Yeah. I never do that.
That's where you pulled up the article, so I was already hip to the game.
Oh, okay.
So let's talk about it. I finally built the position that I'm excited about. So I got 5,000 shares at 25.29, so about even on the actual shares, Bob. And I've got them for sale at 28 for Valentine's Day. Why? Because I don't know where the bottom is, and I need to ring the cash register. Winter earnings get me up to speed. I stopped following the company because I lost like 10 grand, right?
I want to say, if you scroll a little further down, I think it's like towards the end of the month.
Does it tell you here? No.
Keep going a little further. A little further. There we go. Expected February 27th.
So we got time. So we got time.
Yeah, we got a few weeks. So yeah, hey, don't expect a whole. Me personally, don't expect a whole lot out of this quarter. I already went over the scanner data for Celsius. It's not looking great, but as you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. A lot of times, your how a stock reacts towards earnings is as much about guidance as it is about results. And I think the market already has that scanner data pretty much priced in. But I don't know much how they're going to be able to, how much vision they're going to have for their guidance, because I don't know what they're looking at besides just blatant assumptions that don't have any merit. So I don't expect a whole lot from this next earnings call, to be honest with you.
So this is how familiar I was with them previously. I'm just looking to see when I have base times, Bob. We're good. I don't have one until 1 o'clock. So back in the day, whenever we were doing power hour and whatnot, I sold some puts on Celsius over here at 50, messing around with it at 48.33, and we're like, wait, what? That's weird. So I think there was like a split or something, and that's why it has those numbers.
Yes.
So I liked it in the 50s. I didn't love it, and then I messed with it a little bit more. Bought 1,000 shares at 48.32. Bought 1,000 shares at 40, but the conviction wasn't really there. So I let it go. I ended up losing like 9 or 10 grand farting around with it. But then I was like, dude, if this thing got to like the 20s, I got to take like a serious look. This thing was going a mile a minute. They had no debt. They had some pretty good money on the balance sheet. PepsiCo is their distributor. They didn't actually manufacture anything. They were essentially just a marketing company, right? But then they got like co-packs and stuff. I was kind of familiar with the story. But then Pepsi had ordered a bunch of product, and they overestimated how many products they were able to sell. So they halted the orders from Celsius. So that's how the sales plummeted, essentially, because their number one customer, which is Pepsi, that happens to own a pretty big stake of Celsius, they're like, pump the brakes. We're stacked to the gills right now. Let us move some product. And I don't really know what happened after that. But what I do know is they're also expanding to Canada and other countries. So I don't know if all of that international expansion has been factored into the equation or whatever. So I feel like this could legitimately be a turnaround play to 50, 60 bucks a share when the international expansion gets factored in and they start ramping that up, and then maybe Pepsi starts ordering more products. Or it could also be a situation where maybe Pepsi strokes a big check one day. I don't know. But I just feel like I can manufacture the win at these levels. If it dipped into the teens, I think I could really manufacture the win at that level. But I also feel like the sentiment would be at an all-time low at those levels, so it might be harder to pull the trigger than I think. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it. I didn't want to sell any more cash secured puts because I don't want the position getting too big too quickly, because I feel like that's a mistake that I've made a lot. And I'm trying to I'm trying to own or learn from the error of my ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just being patient and kind of letting the trade present itself, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about the way that I'm finally playing it here? Do you think that I'm positioned for the win? I don't think it's going to be an easy win. I think I'll have to earn it, but I do feel like there are such things as asymmetrical bets in the market. And I feel like the floor is here, but the ceiling could be way up here. And that's what I really like about the trade in general. And Celsius has been around for a hot little minute now, and it does seem to have a cult-like following for the product.
They do. They absolutely
the actual
do.
Product.
Yeah, one of the things I track is their Instagram following, and I'm amazed at how fast it's growing. You are right. I do believe there is a very loyal customer base that's continually growing. I think one thing, I don't know if you're aware of, you probably are, but something you have to understand about Celsius. Celsius revenue does not come from the cash registers. Celsius's revenue comes at the point that Pepsi receives the product, right?
Okay.
What happens beyond that point is going to determine how much they're sending Pepsi and how much they're going to get paid. So a lot of times with these type of companies, you're going to have some ebb and flows, and you're going to have some hiccups because of the supply chain management. And there's some speculation about why this occurred with Pepsi. Pepsi kind of, from what I understand, kind of claims that they kept seeing accelerated growth as far as the product goes, and then when that slowed down, that's what caused the basically to stop ordering because it had too much. But there's also the conspiracy theorist part of it that Pepsi owns a percentage of Celsius as part of their distribution agreement. And they, when Pepsi orders all the stuff, obviously their numbers are going up, it causes the stock to go up. And there were a lot of kind of questionable insider trades at that point. And some people believe this whole thing was kind of manufactured to bring Celsius to a level that was overinflated. So I don't know about that. I mean, that's just kind of, just conjecture. What I do know about Celsius is I think we're getting down to more normal levels. When I was first purchasing Celsius at the $50 level, I never chased it up to 100. Mm-hmm. But when I first began position the $50 level, I realized at that point that a lot of the investment thesis at that point was strictly momentum.
Right. We
are not in that stage anymore.
Right.
That momentum is gone, right? The whole energy sector, the momentum is gone. So now it's starting to reflect more of valuations. So I think down here, we're getting a more accurate, an accurate valuation as far as what we're paying. So I think it was a really smart movie, a great time to start a position, to begin a position, knowing that about cash management and you can always add at some point going forward. I'm chasing it down, right? I had a starting, a cost of acquisition of $53 a share. And I've been chasing it down for a while now. I'm down to like 35, 47, but I'm selling covered calls on all these units.
Right.
So I don't talk about adjusted cost basis a lot because I think it's kind of unrealized in a sense.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But, there's that school of thought, don't try and catch a falling knife. And I get that philosophy, but in my investment thesis with Celsius is not a falling knife. It's just a commercial product that happens to be in a sector that is not doing as well as it had been for the past few years. And they're doing all the right things to reaccelerate growth. There's just going to be a little bit of a lag in that, just like the lag in the Pepsi supply chain that I was speaking of, something similar to that. So in the end, I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's basically my thoughts on it.
So I think that it's a situation where valuations matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
and they're still a little expensive.
The hype train got them to $98 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people made a lot of money, but when that happens, a lot of people lose a lot of money. I think there's a lot of people that either are still bad holdings or they just took a loss up there. And when we were messing with it, because you were kind of not guiding me through the trade, but you were watching me while I was, dabbling in the $48, $50 range. You told me that it was pricey because I wasn't really cognizant of anything going on. I was more Like, dude, the drink's good. It seems like they're appealing to women too, not just men, you know, a la Monster and Red Bull. So I like the fact that their TAM is bigger just because you're including the other half of the population, right? Just being very bare bones about it, because sometimes the most simple investment thesis, they pan out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of y'all are making this shit way too complicated.
Yeah.
You know, like, to me, I keep it simple, stupid, and it works for me.
Yeah.
And it works for me. You don't have to be fancy. You need to be rich. Work on that. You don't have to sound smart. Get rich. It's a lot more fun. You know what I mean? I always tell people, you be right, I'll be rich. We'll see who wins in the end, right? So I just, man, I think that right now the valuation is starting to make a little sense. They're still going to be moving product. They still have probably a pretty good balance sheet. I'll tell you what was my biggest hurdle with the company and why I chose to take the small loss was because it seemed like the insiders were selling a bunch of shares. And I had one of them on the chat, somebody was like, oh, this guy's buying a house or whatever. And then I was like, well, how big is this house? Because it seems like he's selling a lot of shares.
Yeah, that was the CEO.
It was in Florida somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I was just like, well, I mean, is he buying, you know, did he buy Mar-a-Lago from Donald Trump? Like, what's he doing? I'm just saying, like, bro, every time I get a notification from Alpha Spread, you dump more shares on the market. I mean, this dude's worse than Vlad and Alex Karp, because those CEOs, they dump shares on the market too.
Right.
And I was just like, I mean, if you ain't buying, I ain't buying, so to speak, right? Kind of like, dude, the reason that Anthony Noto, I mean, he gave us the blueprint, right? I feel, because he was like, hey, rock with me, I'm buying shares, right? He didn't say those things, but that's what I felt like he was telling me. And I was like, well, you're buying, I'm buying, right? And that's kind of the way that the SoFi position kind of morphed and grew a little out of control.
Yeah. Hey, TJ, Celsius is the third.
But walk me through these metrics, Box. You say that it's a little too expensive here. So what are we talking? I mean, 35, that's above average. The market's what, mid-20s, something like that right now?
Take a look at the price to earnings of Monster.
Okay, what is Monster? MSTR? MN something T? Well, I'll just type in Monster. MNST. And this is just one metric, guys. There's so many different ways to it. But this one's cheaper. This one's cheaper, and I know Monster was like one of these stocks that performed very well for years, right?
Yeah, it was one of the best. But as you can see, that was way out of whack, the difference between Celsius and Monster, but it's getting much closer, right?
Yeah, you got 35 to 31.
Yeah, I mean, but it was way out of whack.
And this is a $48 billion market cap. What's the market cap of Celsius?
Oh, I haven't checked in a while, but it's come down considerably.
Market cap is, you know,
5.93 billion. Wow. And they have almost $1 billion in cash.
Got it. So I guess the question is, the reason that SoFi has gotten so big for both of us is because the story got better and the numbers got better. So let's just follow that line of thought for a second. Is the story getting better with Celsius since they got revalued? Like, where are there improvements? Are they expanding in other countries? So they're still working on the story, and then the numbers are going to reflect that the story is mediocre, so the numbers are mediocre. So they're kind of in line with the valuation reboot, if you will.
Yeah. If I could put it this way, you and I both know for the longest time, SoFi's story was just fine.
Right.
For the longest time, we kept looking at it going, wait a second, this valuation, this price action is not matching the progress that the company's making.
Right.
Well, it's a little different with Celsius, right? Celsius took a huge run from momentum because of that huge growth rate it was seeing. Right. Almost the thinking that they
was triple digits. It was triple digit growth.
Yeah, that they can keep this up, and it just, it wasn't going to happen. I think people realized it wasn't going to happen, but they didn't think it would get this low. And the shortage, or the Pepsi whole situation with this, the supply chain issue, that exasperated everything, right? Had it been managed correctly the whole time, reflecting their actual numbers, I don't think Celsius would have gone nearly as high as it did, right? And the same token, it would not have gone down as much as it did either if it was more normalized, because it caused a spike and then rip out, take out the floor, and it caused that huge decline. So I think the truth with Celsius lies somewhere in the middle. I just don't.
So you do think that the drop is justified?
It is justified, but
one second. It's the gentleman that finished the equipment build. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I think it's justified. I mean, everything in the market's justified, right? Because it is what it is. But in my opinion, I think a lot of things are bipolar, right? It's, the truth always lies somewhere in the middle. We tend to go on speculation and euphoria. We tend to go too high up, and then when a underlying receives challenges, we tend to go too low. So, like I said, I think it's somewhere in the middle here. What I do know is we are getting a better bang for our buck today than we were, not so long ago. And I think looking at Celsius' whole growth trajectory, where they've come from to where they're at now, and how quickly they grew to be the third largest energy drink company in the United States, I think says a lot. You just don't get to that point just by chance. There's something sticking with energy drink consumers and fitness enthusiasts, and because they started their whole business basically from gyms, and it grew from there. Now, internationally, they're using the same blueprint. They're beginning their positions internationally in gyms, not in convenience stores, and so on and so forth. They're introducing the product the exact same way they did in the United States, hoping for the same results. Of course, international expansion is going to take some time. You're talking about a brand new product to a brand new area, so that's not going to happen overnight either. But their growth rates have been extremely encouraging, and if they can keep those up, I think Celsius is going to realize a whole new metric on how we look at their valuation now as a global brand, eventually as a global brand and not a U.S. brand. So by and large, I'm just not just as a consumer, I love the product, but looking around, I see that other people love the product. So for me, this is very much a story play that just currently is at a valuation that makes much more sense. And I'm not discounting whatsoever what Celsius may be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Entering into the hydration market is a huge step for them, right? It's not the bottled hydration market. It's not. You're not going to walk into a gas station and see a bottle of Celsius next to the Gatorade. I think there's some complications to that because Pepsi also distributes Gatorade, and I don't think through that distribution agreement that they're going to want that conflict. So something's probably going to have to give. But the fact that they are entering in it through the powders, and something that I just learned yesterday when I went through that article, I didn't realize that Celsius's energy drink powders are the number one top selling powder in the United States. The number one. I didn't realize that. I kind of assumed they're number three, just like they are the energy drinks. That's not the case. And one of the things that I've told TJ about many, many, many times, in my viewpoint, you can garner a lot from simply looking on Amazon. And if you go to bestsellers on Amazon in the the food, beverage, gourmet food category, you are going to see number one bestseller is Celsius. And it's been that way for quite some time. And in my opinion, some people differ with this. You have, in my opinion, Amazon is kind of their own little economy. And being number one on Amazon, your product being number one on Amazon, I think that speaks something to me. It's that consumer that may not be visiting those gas stations, that's looking to get a better value on a product. And that Celsius has continually been number one amongst all energy drinks, and all other products, actually, in that category for Amazon. As huge as Amazon is, as big of a market as they cater to, I think it speaks volumes about the company itself and their future prospects. I was just telling them about Amazon.
Okay.
If you go to Amazon and you look under like the product category and best sellers,
Right.
if you go to, I think it's food and beverage or something like that, food, beverage, and gourmet, something consistently, and they rank every single product from 1 to, I don't know, 100, right? For a long time now, the number one spot has been held by Celsius.
Wow.
And I think that speaks a lot to Celsius, like they're possible consumers, even though right now it's rough for the energy drink market in the convenience store, which accounts for about 60% of the sales. The energy drink market within Amazon is extremely good. And I think it's more of a shift for people, maybe with the inflation thing and all that stuff. They're not changing product. They're just looking for better value. I've heard, that comment you just pulled up. I've read so many of those type comments. In fact, we have a Pepsi distributor that does the runs around here. And if I'm out and about and I see his truck pulled in somewhere, I stop and talk to him. I know it's a very small sample size and localized. I'm like, hey, man, how's Celsius doing? He tells me every time it's selling better than ever.
Yeah.
It's a small sample size. I have a friend who's a nurse in a hospital. I've asked her, how's Celsius do at the hospital? And she told me, there's only one energy drink in this whole entire huge hospital. It's sold in the cafeteria, actually. It's Celsius.
I have wild berry. Wild berry's pretty good, guys.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, when seeing other nurses, the women are always drinking Celsius. The men, on occasion, will have a Monster or something like that. But the women, the female nurses, are always drinking Celsius. It resonates with the energy drink consumer, and even more so with the female gender. So that makes me very bullish on the story.
So let's play a game. I know you don't play this game much, but let's play it.
Can I go to the restroom real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
So guys, let's play this game and then we'll get Bob's info. We'll get Bob's answer after.
Yeah.
Right now it's sitting roughly at $25 a share, right? Do we see 20 or do we see 30? Like, what do you think is the most likely scenario, guys? Do we see 20 or do we see 30? Because at some point it's got to get to one of those, right? So right now it's at 25.39. Is this thing going to go to 20 or is this thing going to go to 30? My answer is I don't know. It seems like 30 makes more sense because it's been there before. It hasn't been at 20 in a long time. But from a valuation perspective, 20 sure would be very exciting. But the question is, do we see 30 first or do we see 20 first? because we've got earnings coming up here in about 3 or 4 weeks. Because the valuation at 20 starts looking very, 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 very compelling.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that. My answer is I'm going to buy it no matter what. And I don't, you know how I am, TJ. I don't like to assume anything.
What changes your I'm going to buy it no matter what approach? What has to crack in the investment thesis for you? And we can end on that, because I think learning how to keep a winner and learning how to cut a loser is more of an art form than a science, right?
Yeah.
So what are you looking at? What are you listening for on the call?
Well, let me first say, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, like you should always really like the CEO and have faith with them. And this is one little crack in my Celsius thesis, is I'm not hell bent on the CEO. I think he has a little bit of used car salesman in him, the way he presents.
I've never heard him talk. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's very like pretend this is a Celsius, right? He does this whole any interview like this, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, we the best," just it's like a salesman. And I prefer a guy that there's a time to be a salesman and represent your company that way, and there's a times to talk about the challenges that the company's facing in an open and honest way. And I think that gets a little diluted at times, the way he is. But so if there's one little nick there, but I have to respect the fact that he's been with this company since this damn thing was a penny stock, right?
Yeah.
So, I can criticize him for how I view a few things, but the fact that this man has driven results.
Yeah.
He has driven results. So I have to understand that and not make it a personal thing with me. But I just, nothing about the thesis, knowing what I know about the company, the product, its customer base, anything from that aspect, none of that has broken. None of it. Right? So as long as I believe in that, whatever volatility comes in the next 3 months, 6 months, year, I'll always have the cash to weather that. So nothing has changed.
We got you to 200, Bob.
You did.
Yeah, I did it all by myself. I pushed all the buttons. I went to all of their houses like Santa Claus.
Now, the more people, the more pressure it is to perform like a monkey now.
You might have to upgrade to the point where we don't see a duck on your channel anymore, Bob.
No, I'm too cheap. You're always going to see the duck.
I will not pay for YouTube Premium, bro. I still, and you know what? It pisses me off because I follow the workouts on the treadmill, the rower, and the bike. I go to YouTube channels and just follow along or whatever. And bro, in the middle of the damn workout, I'm like skip ad or whatever, I'm sitting there rowing, trying to find the damn phone to skip the ad because I'm not going to pay 10 or 15 bucks a month. Hell no. Oh, dude, I'm never going to stop being frugal, bro.
I once had some exercise equipment, but judging by the look of my body, you can see it became a coat rack.
I hear you. Last thing, did you happen to catch the interview I did with the CEO of Riot on the channel?
I did. I'm not into Riot, but I really like the gentleman. There was a lot to like about him. I think I mentioned in one of your chats or something that, I just found him very genuine, very open, very honest, willing to tackle tough questions.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that there's something about this gentleman that so much of what he was saying was about we're making decisions what's best for our employees. Yeah. Every single employee, right down to the janitor, is a stock owner of this employee. Yeah. So we're always going to do what's best for these employees. And I've got a lot of respect for that. I mean, that was good to hear.
Yeah, I'm really hoping I can get him on the channel again. So I've been trying to grow the audience and stuff. That way, when they see that we put out the content, he comes on and, we get the 4,000 or 5,000 views or whatever, because there's anywhere else that he could be with his time. So we got to think about that, right?
Sure.
But there's other channels that he goes on and they can get 30, 40, 50,000 views.
Sure.
So the fact that he knows that there is a lot of money in our community here, so he sees it as an opportunity to paint Riot, and the way that he sees fit or whatever is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So I think it also just goes to show that he's addicted to talking about Riot. He's in this thing, you know what I mean? So it's like he will, wife probably doesn't want to hear what he has to say anymore. So he loves talking to us.
Yeah, I think he even said,
we're all in the same boat, dude. Nobody wants to hear about stocks at home.
I think he even alluded to in your interview with him that this has really become his life mission.
Yeah.
And he's all in, right?
Dude, it's just him, bro. It's everybody at that corporation. Like, it reminded me of when I went to Dutch Bros for the first time. And Kristen was with me when we went to Dutch Bros. And she was like, why the hell is everybody so happy at a freaking coffee house? And you know what I'm talking about, dude. The Dutch Bros culture is one of a kind, right?
Yeah.
And when I walked into that facility at Corsicana, my goodness, dude. And granted, we're probably, because we're with the CEO, so maybe that changes things a little bit. I don't know. But, dude, everybody there was happy, and they just opened up this employee center or something like that, like a little hangout place where people can, grab their lunch, grab a shower, or whatever. It was a cool little spot that they built. So they were doing like that ribbon cutting, if you will. Dude, and then they were like having these testimonials of like employee of the month and all this other shit, dude. So people would give their little speech. And dude, there's people that had like lumps in their throat when they were talking. Like they were like, dude, they were in this thing, bro. Like they were in this thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, I'm happy to be a shareholder, because I really feel like you guys are all in and y'all need to make this damn thing work.
Yeah.
And I think that it's what I loved about it is that they had the burn the ships mentality. It's like, back in the day, the conquistadors, they go to the island and then they burn the ships, right? They burn the boats.
Right.
And like, we got to make this thing happen because there's no way back, right? So it is what it is. And I like that I feel like they burned the ships. Now, I do love the fact that they had that opening to pivot, because they have those 600 megawatts that aren't accounted for yet. And now they're opening, they're really open. Essentially what I feel like they did is they opened up the dating app and they put their profile on there and they're taking interviews on, right? For this AI HPC. So I want to, after the earnings happen and stuff, and he'll be doing the rounds, I'm going to reach out to them to see if he'll come on. I'd like to even get one of his execs on as well. And then we can just keep following the story, keep following the story. And there's an ETF that was launched. There's launching soon for the miners.
Oh, okay.
And Riot and Marathon are the heavy hitters in the miner as far as weighted. And I've been waiting for that for a while. In fact, this is just, I could say it now because it didn't happen. But I was actually looking to see what I could do to start that ETF because I thought it was long overdue. Because I would love to just like own all of them in one shot. You know what I mean? Like, just freaking trying to pick the miner that's got their shit together is very, very difficult.
Now, let me ask you a question. I see a lot of talk, like a lot of discussion. I'm curious how you feel about this. Are the miners simply a good trade, or are they a good investment?
Right now, I have to say, because they're undercapitalized still, not all of them, because some of them have already locked in a couple of deals with these hyperscalers. But they've been behind the eight ball from day one from a cash perspective, right? It's kind of like somebody trying to wheel big with a small account. You're gonna have to stack up a bunch of wins and put some deposits along the way. That way you can treat this like a business, right? Like operating this strategy on a shoestring budget is very difficult, as you all know, Bob. So I think that these miners have all been operating as a shoestring budget. So I think that you're forced to treat them as a trade until they're worthy of being treated as an investment. And that's the reason that I went so heavy with Riot, is because I like their balance sheet the best whenever I was building the position. And I saw a lot of holes in the balance sheet in the other miners. I wasn't comfortable. So I think that until they can really shore up their balance sheet, and Riot is included in this still, because they don't have money forever. Because it would need more dilution or whatever. They've done convertibles and stuff like that, but they'd have to start selling some Bitcoin. I mean, to fund operations as well. They have levers they can pull. I think that until they have enough money to be in business for like 3 years and not have to do anything, just have operations going smoothly, I think at that point, that's when they graduate to investment for all of those miners. And I don't think any one of those miners can say that just yet.
Do you see that the share prices are starting to disconnect from
they're very disconnected. And if y'all roll the tape here, I said the dilution was a problem. These floats get too big, and people are just going to go look at a chart from Marathon and Riot and be like, well, this thing was at 60, 70, 80 bucks back then when Bitcoin was over here. But then you failed to do the rest of the arithmetic. Well, how many shares outstanding did Riot and Marathon have when that happened before? And for people that aren't that savvy or that experienced in the market, you're never going to draw that correlation. That's why I don't like technicals that much, from the standpoint that I'm a fundamentalist at the end of the day, because that chart doesn't tell me those things. I can't go back and look at where was Bitcoin, because you can do an overlay, right? Where was Bitcoin in 2020, 2021, and where was Riot in 2021? So it stands to reason that if Bitcoin was here at 60,000 and now it's at 120,000, well, Bitcoin doubled. Riot is at 3x, Marathon's at 3x proxy, that it's theoretically going to do the same thing, but Bitcoin hasn't diluted. Riot and Marathon have.
So as we go,
where does that get taken into account? And I feel like all of the folks that are pumping the miners, it's like I feel like there's such a disconnect there. Like, how could you not understand that these floats are 3, 4, or 5 times larger than they were back then?
Was it at one point, did you view it as kind of connected, and now it's
totally
okay? So
totally until probably about 2 shelf offerings ago. I was like, at some point, this thing is going to be very, very easy to wield, though, because they have so many shares outstanding that they created this range bound thing that is beautiful for us, because we experienced that for a couple of years with SoFi.
Right.
And that is one of the big reasons that I went so heavy on Riot, because I was like, well, I don't see anything that Riot's going to be able to do to get over 15 for a while. So I guess what? I could sell covered calls and bring in money that way too while I'm doing the cash secured puts. And I'm like, this might be the easiest stock for me to run the cover strangle on. So, I mean, I'm looking at other things, guys. I'm not just looking at, I think this thing's going up and to the right. Eventually, I think that's the case. Mm-hmm. But I do love the fact that they chose dilution as the solution versus just taking on a lot of debt, because they may not be investable if they'd have taken on too much debt.
Right.
And it's hard. But again, hamburger stand. We're going to go invest in the hamburger stand. We're going to own a percentage of that hamburger stand. And in the outside world, we think that we're always going to own that percentage of that hamburger stand. But then if we're going to go invest in another hamburger stand, we're going to have to do a capital raise with all of those fellow investors. If they don't have the money, then you got to go get outside money to go get another hamburger stand going. And then guess what? Everybody's just been diluted. Yes or no? That's what would happen in the real world, right?
Right.
So I understood that. And I understand that with companies at this stage in the game. But people always look at it like, I'm investing in that hamburger stand, and my equity ownership is always going to be the same. If anything, go up, not down. And we're going to keep expanding hamburger stands, but I'm never going to bring any more money to the table. That's unrealistic. Right. So I just, again, I think it's my business sense and having experience in the business world, practical business experience, because I've owned several businesses. I feel like I'm able to look at these smaller companies with that set of eyes and knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I know where they're at, bro. I know where they're at in their journey because I've been there.
Yeah.
I've called Bank of America and Wells Fargo begging for lines of credit to keep my business open. Dude, those are very humbling conversations to have. Like, oh, the good news is I landed this contract with UTSA and it's going to be about $2 million. The bad news is if I don't find a factoring company or you guys give me a credit line, I'm going to file for bankruptcy and it's not going to matter. So what do you want to do? Can you help me out? No. Can you help me out? No. Here's the phone number. This factory will take all your receivables and they'll give you 80 cents on the dollar to keep you afloat. And I'm like, where do I sign up? So I had to take all my contracts to the pawn shop. So I played those games and I feel like that's what the miners have been doing.
Right.
And I think that's why they appeal to me so much because I know how to scramble, bro. I'm like Captain Scramble in life. You know, I'm like, dude, with these people scramble at a much higher level than I do now. And now you got convertible notes that I don't fully understand. There's like a lot of other factors. And then the fact that they are bullish on Bitcoin, they got a huge ass hodl. Marathon's got a huge ass hodl. And Bitcoin goes up to $200,000, $300,000. All that pain would have been worth it for everybody. So yeah, you know, it's one of those things. I think it's a great trade. Is it an investment? Time will tell. Time will tell, but it's been on the books for me for a while, right?
Right.
I'm just saying, y'all haven't heard me say that I'm selling Riot, you know, and I've been holding these shares on just as long as SoFi. And what about SoFi, real quick? Well, let's end on that because I want to go grab a bite to eat real quick before I have these FaceTimes. What does it look like to exit out of SoFi? Because I can't even get there yet. Like I had this idea that at like 45, you know, Noto gets paid, I get paid type thing. But then I listened to that conference call 3 times. And I heard a man that said, I don't give a shit about the share price. I only care about the company.
100%.
And bro, I have never been more bullish than I am now on SoFi. Because this dude isn't chasing performance units. This dude is trying to become a top 5, top 10 financial institution. And what does that look like from a share price perspective? So I feel like my goal and my vision for SoFi was like right over here. And that's why he's the CEO. His vision is way over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, man.
Yep, I know it's not.
I think this would be the kind of shit that we would to the kids.
Yep, I know it was a very unpopular thing for some people to hear, to kind of pull back guidance a little bit, but he explained why he was doing it. And if you plan on being in SoFi for the long term, he did not only what's best for the company, but what's best for you.
Yeah.
And so if you can get away from the short term, oh crap, we didn't run to 27 or $25 a share because of this, and understand that your chances of seeing SoFi at $40 or $45 a share in the future is greater by the decisions that he's making. And I'll tell you something else, TJ. Big respect for the man that has performance-based share compensation that, from what it appears, is not looking at it from how can I get mine and maybe bringing this revenue down to the bottom line as quick as possible to meet those dates, and doing what's best for the company, which might not, I don't know for sure, but might not be what's best for him.
Yeah.
To get, to reach those, his compensation package. So, I mean, you and I, we've always been fans of the guy. There's just so much to like about him.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I think for you and me, it's a big reason why we got into the company, is just our faith in him to execute. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I feel like that's pretty accurate. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it's kind of like whenever they reshuffled their notes a year ago or so, and they're like, hey, we're going to pay this rate, now we're paying that rate. So there was a restructuring that led to them making those decisions or whatever. And I just think that SoFi is not the best at communicating and articulating what they're doing, because I think what they do is so intricate, and it's tough. That's why it's real tough to invest in SoFi from that perspective, because they'll say something or they'll do something and then they'll say something, and then it takes a lot of really, really smart people trying to like decode everything, right? They're like to deduce like what the hell did they really just say or what did they really do. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit, and I got to let you go.
Yes.
On your I don't know what it's called, the wallpaper. So I see a Celsius bottle can, and then I see the SoFi, like the little period.
And the O for boring is Enovix.
Ennovix. That's Ennovix's symbol. Is that
Correct.
what that is?
And the one that's not on there, that Alex made this for me, by the way.
I was going to ask you if Alex made this.
Yeah, he sure did. But
okay.
My goal is to kind of like, these were my 3 core positions when I first started this channel to run this business with. My goal is to kind of add one every year. This year, I chose to add Symbotic, which is a robotics company.
Yeah.
So it's not.
You're fanboying that company hard on your channel. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, TJ, when you come across a certain company where like, your research and the way the things that you have to go through to research the company can sometimes feel laborious. And I always know I'm kind of onto the right thing when I go through a company and I start looking at it and it becomes a labor of love. Like every little thing that I'm seeing just piques more interest in it for me. And that happened to me with Symbotic. I mean, I had to I was getting giddy, and I had to take a step back and go, wait a second.
What's the ticker, Bob?
SYMB.
And how early are they? Did they make any money yet, or?
No, they're not quite profitable. But the whole story on Symbotic is basically they use AI with robotics, and Walmart owns a percentage of Symbotic, and they are basically changing the whole supply chain for all of Walmart, the largest retailer in the United States, right down from the distribution centers to now. They just announced they're actually going to be bringing in their robotics and their AI in the back rooms of the Walmart in order to order fill their online delivery and their customer pickup and stuff. So Walmart is a huge believer and owner in Symbotic, and they also have some other verticals.
So they're automating Walmart's like assembly line, if you will. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, at the warehouse, the distribution centers.
Yeah.
Dude, watch these videos. These machines, these robots, are freaking amazing. What they do.
I used to work at a distribution center between San Antonio and Austin. There's a huge ass distribution center off of I-35, and bro, this thing's huge. And guys, it is amazing how organized that place was. So I can imagine what it's like now. This was in the 90s, because I had just gotten out of college. I was just trying to figure things out. They offered me an opportunity at like $15 an hour. You know what I mean? And it was a weird shift. It was like 3 p.m. to 11 or 12, something like that. And I learned how to drive a forklift. I learned how to do all kinds of cool shit that I thought I would need later on in life or whatever. But dude, that distribution center was just, bro, 24/7, 365. And just trucks leaving in and out with all of this shit. It's just absolutely.
Robotics is changing all of that, TJ.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are working there, though. I guess my question is what happens to all those people? Are all those people going to get demoted or unemployed? Like that's the part about robotics that it scares me a little bit, because what does that do to the unemployment rate in this country, and what are we going to do with all of those menial jobs?
Well, I guess I understand that thought process, but there's a few things to look at. In my opinion, we need to look at the birth rate in the United States and understand that it,
Declining, right?
yes, declining. It's getting lower and lower, and understand that a lot of jobs are becoming extremely hard to fill, and I think that trend is going to continue. So if you can look at it like, is it replacing human jobs, or is it just relocating human jobs? Because if companies do not figure out a way to automate and to bring greater proficiency, thus cost reductions to their business through automation, this is a game. This is a first mover game, right? Walmart historically has always been at the forefront of all this kind of crap because they have the deep pockets, and Walmart already knows their strongest competition truly is Amazon, because they are the most progressive of any business with investing in these type of things. And so it's really, in my eyes, it's kind of a race between Walmart and Amazon, especially since Walmart has gone so much into the delivery, the e-commerce side of it. It's really a race between those two, and there's going to be a need. It's going to come to a point with automation. You either keep up or you're going to be out of business,
Right.
because you're not going to be able to sustain the kind of margins that people who are keeping up are able to, because of the increased, proficiency in the business and the cost savings. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, if you want to remain in business.
Yeah, I agree. Well, cool, brother. I got to get rocking, man. I really need to get something else in my belly before I do these FaceTimes, and I got a rowdy workout session lined up today. I've been going live a lot this week, guys. Reason being is because I am in New York City next week, and unless I can sneak away for like 2 or 3 minutes and do a real quick update, the wife wants nothing to do with YouTube or Twitter or anything of the sort. She wants me to really take in just being away, like it's okay. Like, you're not going to lose all your subscribers. The members are good. You give them a lot of value when you do the FaceTimes and all that stuff. And to kind of remind me that this isn't a job. I do this because I like to, because I don't need to. But sometimes I treat it like a job, right? Like I'm like, hey, I gotta get on it. And she doesn't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? Like she's like, we could unplug this thing, because she wanted me to unplug it January 1. Because that's the deal that we had made. That I was going to give them everything that I could. I have enough material for the book, etc. I'm done, right?
Right.
And I'm like, dude, there's all the info. Do with it what you will. I'm going to move on with my life. But I talked her into another year. So we're literally year by year here on this journey, because my wife does not like YouTube. For me or for us, she thinks that some of the energy is too negative because she reads the chats. And mostly when I go on a Mid's channel, she just thinks that there's a lot of hate over there towards me at times. And she's like, fuck those people. They don't even know you.
Right.
And I was like, baby, you're focused on a couple of bad apples where we have a lot of people here. You know what I mean? What I'm saying?
Right.
Those are the conversations that we kind of have. And we always want to have good energy, right? Good energy.
For sure. 100%.
And I'm like, baby, those trolls, like we can't pay no mind to those trolls. Like I feel like there's a lot more people getting value than those that are claiming not to get value. And then there's always something else that they could be watching, right? So they're choosing to watch. But anyway, we're here for another year, right? At least for 2025, we're good. I have the green light for 2025. Past that,
before we cut out, I just want to say it was a pleasure catching up with you today, TJ. And we'll have to do it down the line again. But thanks for having me on, and I wish you the best. And keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Appreciate it. Dude, I'm turning 50, Bob.
What?
Turning 50. And,
50?
yeah, on February the 5th. I don't know what 50 looks like. I do. I mean, of course, we're biased, right? But I feel like I don't look 50. I feel like I look like 47.
9.5 years, so you can tap your 401k.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude, I'm 9.5 years from not feeling broke.
Yeah.
I mean, paper rich and like having all that money into a checking account that's losing in inflation. That's the dream, Bob.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I get to stop writing tuition checks for college as of this month, so I'm pretty excited about that. Already thinking where I'm going to allocate that capital, because you get so used to like putting out that money and then it stops and you're like, now what do I do with it? So yeah.
I remember that account that I started that I'm going to give to my son.
Yeah,
it's at like 90 grand right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it hit like 97 when things were like really pumping a week or two ago. But it's just all like SoFi and then like a little bit of Riot. I have some puts on Neo.
Nice.
And just running with shit.
Yeah, you started that before SoFi took its run, right?
Yeah, so I got a 6. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up real quick. I have 6,000 shares of SoFi. I don't even know how to work this damn thing here sometimes, but yeah, dude, I just freaking I had a vision, right? I had a vision, and I was like, dude, this is an opportune time, so let me jump on it, and I did. Send text instead. What the heck? Oh, this thing's. Yes, it's me. Okay, let me see if I can figure this out, Bob. So we go here. Where does it say streamer? This guy. Present, share screen. So this here, guys, is a portfolio of what not to do if you don't have a lot of experience and you don't have capital to bail you out, right? Those are the disclaimers, because I do not recommend following me on these trades. So we've got 6,000 shares of SoFi. I'll put this on total return. That's
I take it you used quite a bit of margin on here too, huh?
Yeah, a lot more than is advisable. So I'm trying to. Here we go. Go total return. So I'm up a lot on SoFi. So I got 6,000 shares of SoFi. That's the base of the portfolio. Then I've got long calls that I bought on SoFi because the cover calls are underwater at 15 for the beginning of next year. And then I bought leaps on Riot, and I'm running the poor man cover call on SoFi and Riot in conjunction with owning the shares and selling the cover calls. And then I'm cash grabbing as well to pay off the margin. So I was like at $28,000 in margin, and now I'm down to 25. So I'm generating about $1,500 to $2,000 a month, and I'm paying about $100 a month in margin. So it's kind of working out. And I've deposited a total of 35 grand.
Nice.
And then the last year up 142% or 49 grand. And that's net liquidation value right there. So if I closed out all the margin and sold everything, put in 35, walk out with 85. So not bad, right?
No. Wish every year could be like that, huh?
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah. but I feel good about it. You know, got 90, 95%, 96% expiring tomorrow. So the SoFi and the Riot. So those are good. Those paid good money. Y'all will see there. That's about, $22,000. And then I've got Riot cash secure puts that are starting to print a little bit. The Neo cash secure puts that are printing a little bit. And then everything else is the leaps that I bought plus the covered calls. And I'm thinking that these covered calls here, now I can decide whether or not I just want to let the shares get called away, because I've got the long calls that I purchased as well. Or if I just want to keep the position intact, I'll roll it from 15 to 20 and just keep getting $5 a year, because that's not bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then just keep that position going, eventually, if Riot goes on a massive run, because this was up like 5,000 at one point on these long calls, Bob, I could potentially see a world where I close everything out and I double down my position on SoFi and buy 4,000 more shares. And then that way Jeremiah's got 10,000 shares of SoFi, because I do believe that those will go to $100 one day and he'd have $1 million and call life good. And then I would just be babysitting, a portion of those covered calls, because on the other ones I'm not stuck yet, right? So,
right.
And then I would still be able to sell cash secured puts on the Riots and everything else of the world, but just have one stock position, which would be SoFi. I don't see a world where I'm going to want to own any more shares of Riot in here or Neo or anything like that. These are just little cash grab opportunities. And instead of owning shares of Riot, I bought the long calls so I can control the shares and still bring in a crap load of premiums on the covered calls. So that's kind of the way that I'm playing it, dude. Real simple. It doesn't take me very much time to manage at all. And I'm letting a lot of things expire, dude. Like this year, I could probably give back $30 and free up those shares. But I'm like, dude, $30 is $30. You know what I mean? Like, and I got anything else to do. I'm not going to go sell $14 covered calls right now on Riot and add that element of stress. So I'm just being very patient with it. And I've got the 10 cash secure puts over here on Riot at 10 and 20 cash secure puts on Neo at $4. And those are surprisingly doing pretty decent. I just sold these not too long ago. So I'm hoping that Neo can stay at those levels, and I can ring the cash register for $300 or $400 a month on Neo, just to use it to pay back margin, if that makes sense.
Nice. Well, brother, we're at 2 hours on this pod.
Yeah, I gotta go, man. Appreciate you. Anyway, TJ the Will Deal signing off as always. May your sky stay blue, stock screen. Peace out. God bless you guys.